Barbara, can you introduce yourself real quick?
My name is Barbara West, and I live in South Ogden. I've lived here for 65 years, and my husband passed away in January of 25, so it's just been 1 year, and I've been adjusting to that for this whole year.
And can you tell us a little bit about your husband's situation before he was on hospice care?
My husband was always top of the heap. He was very smart, and people looked up to him. He had a lot of friends and a lot of business associates. And but he started to forget things, like we'd be going to visit one of our kids, and he'd say, "Where are we going?" And I said, "We're going over to Jeff's." "Well, where does he live?" And he'd been there 100 times probably, but he couldn't remember how to get there. So we finally me and the kids got together and said, well, we're going to have to take driving privileges away from him because he wouldn't be able to remember where he went or how to get back. So we did that, and so I did all the driving. He always wanted to go for a ride. He loved to go for rides. So every day I would take him for a ride. We'd probably drive the boulevard or just go get a Coke or something. And that became our routine for a while. And then he got a little worse and started having some, accidents, like wet his pants, those type of things. Very, very disheartening to him, hard for him. So I'd gone to a funeral for a friend of ours who had passed away, and I ran into Annette Wood, who's from Applegate, and she saw my husband was with me, and she could tell that something was wrong, and so she called me in a few days, and we talked about it. She came over and visited with him and decided that maybe hospice would be a good thing for him. So they started coming to visit Jerry, and it would come about once a week. And pretty soon we started getting a CNA that would come to help him take his showers and stuff so that he wouldn't fall. And Applegate was really good to me too. They tried to make sure that I had what I needed, and sometimes they would come and sit with him so I could run to the store or do something. And they were always real concerned about me and him, and I appreciated that very much.
I love that. And for you, what was going through your mind when you first heard the word hospice?
When I first heard the hospice, I thought it meant end of life. And me and my children had got together and said, well, this isn't the end of his life. He's doing all right. He can still walk and talk, and he gets around okay. But as the time went on, we could see that it wasn't just for that. It was for companionship, for me and for him. And they became our friends. The CNA girls that would come they came on Monday and Wednesday and Friday, 3 days a week. And they'd come and make sure he had what he needed and clean him up if he needed to be cleaned up and stuff like that.
And what helped you guys decide that hospice was the right choice for your family?
Well, we knew someone else. Like I said, my friend who'd passed away, they'd had hospice. And so they knew. And I talked with them about it, and they recommended it highly. So we went to hospice with Applegate.
So how did hospice support you during that season, and not just your husband?
They, Annette especially was very good to me, and she came and we'd have a talk time, and she'd just tell me how things were and signs to look for and what I could do if he did this or that, or just, who to ask if I needed help. There were a couple times when I called Annette at her home. She'd give me her phone number, and I had called her at home because I had some questions about what to do for Jerry. and she was right on it for me.
What stood out to you most about the people that cared for you and your husband?
I think they really cared. That was the most important thing. I had to smile. The one that came on to see that he took his shower, she'd come in and he'd know, I don't need a shower, he'd say, and she'd say, yes, you do. And she said, I'm standing right here until you get ready. And she would escort him in there and make sure he got in, and then stood and helped him get out and dried him down and helped him so that he wasn't embarrassed because of the way she handled it. She was very, very kind and very, private about it. So.
Was there a moment when you realized that you're not alone in this?
Yes, because I knew that hospice cared. I mean, like when this gal would come to see that he took a shower, he got to where he knew when the doorbell rang, oh no, here she comes again. But after a while, he started looking forward to it. He'd say, oh, there she is, But first, he didn't want to see her. But she became our friend.
And what did hospice allow you to focus on that you might not have otherwise focused on?
They allowed me to focus on what was to come. They'd give me some pamphlets and booklets, and they also had down at the Weber Health Department, they had a class called Caregivers for Caregivers. And I went to that. I think it was about every week. There's a little luncheon with it, and there's other people who are going through the same thing that were caregivers, and we could kind of talk to each other, and it was nice to know that, oh, you did that? Oh, maybe I could do that, that kind of thing. It's nice to have somebody that was going through the same thing.
Yeah, somebody that's in your shoes. That's awesome. And for someone who may be afraid of hospice, what would you want them to know?
I'd want them to know that it's worth it. It's what they need. You need this. You need companionship. You need understanding. You need to know what to do in certain situations that you wouldn't know otherwise, because they know.
I like that. How has the support continued after his passing?
They still call me occasionally to see how things are going. And when Jerry was passing away, Annette came over the night. They brought a hospital bed in and got him set up for that. And me and my children, and then we had the grandchildren come by, and everybody got to say their goodbyes to him because she knew it was near, and she prepared us for it. Annette did. And that was just great because we weren't scared. We weren't scared. It was a relief. It was a relief for him and for us because we didn't have to see him suffer anymore. So it was good.
That was awesome. Well, perfect. Thanks, Barbara. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.